Hey everyone, welcome back to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. Today I'm on the phone with Nick Nichols, great artist in the country music and Christian music genres here. But before we get started with all that, which I know you can't wait for, we need to thank our sponsors. We've got to pay the light bill here. So I'd like to thank Positively Pittsburgh Live Magazine. That's pplmag.com, Pittsburgh's first internet radio, TV, online community magazine, and business directory. So you definitely want to check that out if you want to get your business promoted. I think she's got something like 8 million people logging in a month. It's very, very cool. A great place to get seen. Also, I'd like to thank mtsmanagementgroup.com. MTS Management is more than just an artist management company. It's a bona fide rock star in the music industry, specializing in full-service artist management, publicity, and promotions. And social media campaigns. MTS Management is on the cutting edge of today's new music. Now, I've got a really interesting guy with us on the phone today, CMT country artist Nick Nichols is a professional musician, entertainer, songwriter who's been performing and ministering professionally for over 25 years. Nick and his band, Southern Crescent, have opened for such major acts as T.G Sheppard, Gene Watson, O.B. McClinton, the Masters 5. His songs have been pitched to such artists as Alan Jackson, Trace Adkins, George Strait, Trisha Yearwood, and the list goes on and on and on. His video, The High Cost of Loving, is currently in rotation on country music television. It can be viewed on the Vivo network as well. Recently, Nick and his writing partner, Bob Pennington, wrote the song Think Pink, recorded by Nashville star Tammy Cochran for the Susan G. Komen Greater Nashville Foundation in support of breast cancer research. Nick Nichols, welcome to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.
Good morning, Lou. Thanks for having me, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man.
Awesome.
So tell me a little bit about. Let's start at the beginning. How did you get started in music? You've been in the music business for a long time. So what was the sort of impetus to get you rolling here into the music business?
Well, when I was about 6 years old, my mom got me a piano, and that was the beginning of it. That's where it started. I started taking lessons. Actually, she got it when I was probably like 5, but I couldn't reach the keys, but I was really enthralled by it. I think when I was probably 2 or 3, I got one of these little Mickey Mouse type pianos that you hit a note and it would play a nursery rhyme, and I was hooked. I guess I was probably hooked about 3, really.
Wow. So you were kind of came out of the womb with music running through your veins almost.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, hopefully my book will be out this year. It's entitled I Am Music, which is the song that I wrote, but it's now I Am Music Story. It's the story of my musical career. So I'm finishing it up. It's almost finished now. I keep adding to it. Things keep happening, so I keep adding to it. But anyway, I am definitely music. It oozes through me. There's a song, if you hear it, I don't know if you've heard Born to Sing, but that's the anthem of me.
That's your anthem.
Now, I recently wrote.
So you started taking some piano lessons. Now, when did you start? Did you start playing in bands? Was it like a teenager, or were you primarily classical? I know a lot of times when you take piano lessons, they really kind of track you with the sort of classical thing at the beginning. Well, how did you kind of evolve into getting into where you are now?
Well, believe it or not, I used to, I started out, obviously, we all get taught Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, and Chopin, and all that good stuff, and that's great music. I always loved it, but one day I heard a guy on the radio, I guess when I was in high school, by the name of Jerry Lee Lewis, and I went crazy. And not only Jerry Lee Lewis, but then this guy came along in my early college years and late high school years by the name of Barry Manilow. Mm-hmm. And I got so enthralled in his big positive melodies that one day my mom came in and I was sitting there playing one of his songs and singing it, and she said, "Where'd you get the music to that?" I said, "I don't have any music. I just figured it out." And I didn't realize, I mentioned in my book, that was probably the first song that I ever charted. I actually charted that song out in my head and played it, and didn't even know what I was doing back then.
So when did you make the leap into actually like going out and playing like gigs with with bands with yourself?
I started playing. We played in a couple of high school bands, and we do proms and private parties and things like little birthday parties and stuff like that. But then when I moved into college at Clemson University in 1974, I met a couple of incredible musicians that kind of turned my head into writing. So I started writing. And then we started actually playing nightclubs and the lounges around the university, and we were a regular at this place called Edgar's. We played there every Thursday night and had a really good following. And then when I got out of college, I got married, and then happened to be working in the engineering field with a guy who was a guitar player. And he said, we're looking for a keyboard player. And it was game on then. So in the 1980s, early 1980s, I started touring with a band, Southern Crescent. We played a lot of honky-tonks back then, played some big shows, and then we went toward the later 80s, early 90s. We found out we could make more than one night playing corporate functions. We played the whole week in the club, so we went black tie, and it's been black tie ever since then.
Now, at some point, though, you began to get into Christian music, because I'm looking at your bio here. It says spreading the word of God through music. So when did that come about?
Well, I was born again when I was in college, and I've always been involved in church, and actually my first public singing was actually, really in church. I actually started to do it with a lady who had a beautiful alto voice, and I just loved it. And I guess probably in the late 80s, I'm still singing in church. I've actually served as an assistant music minister led a praise and worship team, but that just wasn't my calling. I'm just not, I love church, but I'm just not a church leader kind of guy. I'm a singer and a writer. And an entertainer. And so at the end of the late 80s, I started writing some Christian music, and I actually have one album that was never released that I wrote, and then started writing in the early 2000s. I've been writing all along, but I've been planning this, and I guess probably early 2000s I really got serious and started really getting some great blessings with some Christian music, and then in 2013 we released Living in God's Grace.
Okay. Now, it's now, like I said, I apologize, but I don't have all that much information in front of me on you. Living in God's Grace, is that a record, or is that a single, or what is that?
That is my first Christian CD. In 2014, the first single off that album, Something Inside of Me, that I co-wrote with my friend Steve Garrett, who was my pastor here in Nashville, went to number 24 on the Christian Voice chart. And then we released, just now released The Other Side, which I'm sure you have now, the new single,
right?
Which is the second single off of this CD.
Okay. Okay, we're getting the picture of what's going on here. So you've been in the in the music business, and you've got your foot in the Nashville side of it, as well as the Christian side of it. So that you've had a lot of success on both fronts. What are some of the big career highlights for you so far?
Well, I'm still looking at that first big hit, but obviously opening for some major acts back in the 80s with the band was a big thing, and I've gotten to really meet some great number one hit writers that I'm writing with now. That write my kind of music. Gerald Smith's one of my best friends. He had 2 number one hits back in the 90s with Lori Morgan, and Jan Buckingham had 3 number one hits with Pam Tillis. I've had 3 songs on hold with George Strait. He's yet to cut one, but I'm still working on it. And I've had songs on hold with Travis Tritt now in Jackson. And I've had my songs pitched all over town. I've had a number of cuts overseas through the International Songwriters Guild, which I'm a part of, and those are doing really well with some really big artists overseas. And so, I guess really it's all. Just coming up here was the big thing. Making a move up here in the mid 2000s to get up this way and really get after it seriously has been a big highlight, because I've been a lot of doors have opened and I've met a lot of great people. Right now, probably the best thing that may happen to me is that Rowdy McCarron, who is a new Nashville artist that's out of Las Vegas, great artist, great band, great guy. We've written with him. He has got a showcase in January here for Big Machine Records, and everybody knows who Big Machine is: Taylor Swift, Tim McGraw, Martina McBride. The list goes on. And he's got 4 of my songs on hold on his album, and if Big Machine picks him up, then I will officially be a major label writer. So I'm really hopeful for that. Hopeful for Rowdy, because he's a great guy.
Well, that's really exciting, and I know that means a lot to the song, to people who are really cut their teeth, and really that is really their career is the songwriting. And speaking of songwriting, you said you write with people. Do you get together in these songwriting circles that they have out there, and Is this something you do on a regular basis, or is it more free form, like whenever you happen to get together with a friend or one of these other guys? How does that typically work?
No, I do a lot of just, sometimes we plan it. Jan runs a songwriter session that she does at one of the venues here in town, and I do those regularly with her, me and my songwriting partner, Amy Chenoweth. And we also do the Commodore Grill downtown, and we do a number of the other ones. There's the Douglas Corner, obviously the infamous Bluebird Cafe. And those are scheduled. Sometimes you're on stage with people you don't know. Sometimes you're on stage with people that you know. It's just the way it goes, but it's all fun.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned The Other Side. Now, tell us what that single's about, and just tell us basically what that song's about.
This is a song that was written in memory of two really good friends of mine who I lost to cancer. One was Hope Whitmire, who she and her husband sang in my praise group a number of years ago, and the praise and worship group that I led. The other one is for my old sweet mate from college, Carl Wynn, who died. His first start had stomach cancer, and he got into his lungs, and we lost. And I was actually with Carl when he died, when he took his last breath. We've been friends for over 30 years, and it was really hard losing him. It's hard to lose something. It's one thing to lose your parents. That's tough. But when you lose somebody that's your own age, that's really tough, especially somebody you're close to. And it kind of gave, I guess, being with him and his death kind of gave me a unique perspective of maybe from a different angle of death, of those last few days that you spend on this earth and the things that go through your mind and the things you want to say to people. And that's where the song came from.
Wow, very, very powerful stuff. Now, you're writing, like I said, we've mentioned earlier, the country side of things as well as the contemporary Christian music. I don't know if that's what we called it. We used to call it contemporary Christian music. Is that still what it's called?
It is, and I write praise and worship music, and I write Christian country, and I write Christian contemporary music too as well.
Now, do you ever have is there ever any, just for you personally, and you can share what you feel about this or not, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you ever find yourself in any situations where you're uncomfortable because you do have this, you do have this deep faith, and maybe with the country side of things, maybe sometimes there's situations where you feel like you have to step away or there's a conflict?
Well, there's lines that I won't cross when it comes to writing. I mean, I'm not going to sell myself out and write things that I feel like are detrimental. Now, everybody writes a good drinking song every now and then. And you have to write some stuff that you're going to sell songs in this town. I told somebody the other night, I said, if you're living in a town that's buying apples and you're selling oranges, you better find some apples. So what I'm trying to do is write some really tasteful country pop music that's very lyrically, substantially strong, and is not over the edge. And we're not going over the edge. I just won't go down that road. But I haven't found myself in that position yet. Don't really intend to because of my faith. I don't particularly care that I'm not going to cross that line. I am what I am. People take me as I am. If you don't like me, then that's your prerogative. But I'm not going to change to please people.
Okay, I got you. Tell me about the song in the video, "High Cost of Loving."
Now that was a fun one. That was one that I wrote a number of years ago, actually, and it was just when you play in these clubs, you see a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Just based on a couple of experiences that I had heard about in clubs and have seen actually in my own personal self that I thought would be kind of a fun song to write, and it's just kind of a different way of looking at taking heartbreak. And unfortunately, we did the video here in Nashville and got some really great reviews on it, and then it was released with Starting on Records and wound up being on CMT. It's funny, I was actually playing in church a number of weeks ago. I was playing keys that morning and got a text message while I was playing, so I couldn't see it till I sat down, and I looked at it, and somebody had sent me a text message that said, "Hey, I just saw your video on television," and I had another holy experience. Couldn't believe it. It was great. That's the first time I had heard. Apparently, it had been out for about a week. It had been on television, and some people had seen it, and somebody actually wound up seeing it. They just saw your video on television, and I was great. I had no idea it was even on. Really cool.
It's a fun song. It's very cool. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Now, let me ask you about this because, again, you're also involved with Shine On Records.
Right.
Now, are they just handling your Christian stuff, or how does that work?
Well, Star One, I'm on Star One originally, and Star One has branched out into the inspirational Christian field, and they signed 4 artists to that, and I was very fortunate to be one of them. So I now feel like God has blessed me with it, that I've got an avenue for my Christian music. I didn't really have an avenue out there because I'll be honest with you, the Christian music field here in Nashville, it's harder to get into than the country. It's a very, very, very small market. Very, very few people that control it, and it's extremely difficult to break into that market and get your songs on radio. So, especially on major, I guess, Billboard radio for Christian music, it's very, very difficult. So, I'm really thankful that Shine On that Laura Patterson, the CEO of Star One, they decided to develop Shine On for Christian artists. And now I have an avenue to have my songs played on the radio, and I've already, and be able to release albums on my Christian side. I'm really excited about that.
Christian music has really come a long way. Since the very beginnings. I don't know how familiar you are with the sort of like beginnings of contemporary Christian music, but in the late '60s and early ’70s, there were artists like Larry Norman and Andre Crouch and people like that who were sort of like who sort of kind of like actually put it out there. But still a lot of people aren't familiar with that music. When they think Christian music, they still think praise and worship music, or they think church music. How would you address that? What would you like to say about Christian music?
I think Christian music, the praise and worship music that we do now is great music, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, I do. I actually love it. Sometimes it can be lyrically deep. I mean, some of the stuff that we do on stage in our services, it's great stuff. I love it. It's absolutely great. It can be spiritually deep. Sometimes the songs are more personal. For me, I try to write things that are more personal, either from personal experiences or the real world type stuff, just like The Other Side. I mean, that's something that everybody has, at one time or another, has been through. They understand they've lost someone that's very close to them, or God is bigger than the world, which is another song that's been floating around that Michael has sent out that is on that album. It's very, very personal because it's something that you're involved in every day, everyday walk of life. And people can relate to that, that God really is bigger than the world. He's bigger than the universe and all the rocks it hurls, is what the song says. And, he's bigger than temptation. He's bigger than frustration. It's just things that are more personal that people can relate to. And if I can relate to someone, then maybe I can have an influence on them.
Right. Okay, so the Christian music, the contemporary Christian music, the contemporary country Christian music is more of a personal sort of nature. Is that what you're saying?
I think it is. I think it really is. I think that the country side of it is a little more relatable than the pop side of it, because a lot of times with the pop music you can get lost in the music, and that's not a bad thing because people have great spiritual experiences just from the music they hear. But there's also a lot of contemporary Christian music out there that is by, I know that it's by artists that when you get into looking at their spiritual values and where they are and what their groups believe in, it's not exactly what I believe. So it's a little more edgy, and so I tend to favor myself toward the Christian country, although mine is almost a pop Christian rock. It's what it is. It's Christian country rock. It's real up-tempo stuff, although The Other Side is more of the country, your standard country ballad. Mm-hmm. I still like steel guitars. You don't hear steel guitars in country music. I love steel guitars. Gotta have steel.
Keep putting them steels in there. Hey, and we're wrapping up here. So, what are some of the what's coming up? Anything you'd like to plug? Anything you'd like to kind of let everybody know that we didn't cover?
Well, I'm currently working on a couple of new albums, writing for those. I'm writing for a new Christian album, and I'm writing for a brand new country album that hopefully will be coming out in 2016. Then, of course, the book's coming out hopefully next year. That's the plan, at least hopefully by the early first quarter or early to late first quarter, I guess, sometime around that time. And hopefully going to be doing some more touring next year. Got several things lined up already. People can check me out on Facebook, and they can also listen to my music on Reverb Nation. I'm on SoundCloud, and I'm on the Nashville Universe as well, and I'm part of the International Songwriters Guild if you want to check that organization out.
All right. Thanks. Hey, Nick, thanks a lot for taking some time out of your schedule to talk with us. I really appreciate it. If you could hang on, I need to go over something with you after we end the recording here. I just need to do a little bit more business, and I'll get right back to you, okay?
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Just 1 second. All right. Hey, guys, you've been listening to Nick Nichols talking about his career in country music and contemporary Christian music. Fascinating discussion here. Got into some great points, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it. You can hear more interviews that I've done, plus our music podcast, Loudini, rockandrollcircus.com. I'd like to thank once again our sponsors, Positively Pittsburgh Live Magazine, that's pplmag.com, and MTS Management Group, that is mtsmanagementgroup.com. Please check those guys out when you get a chance. And once again, Loudini, rockandrollcircus.com to check out all the back episodes, listen to Nick's interview, and some great music. All right. And we will see you guys on the next edition of the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. Thank you so much for listening.